to refer to, and historical, so to speak.
Okay, this is a book you might find interesting. It's by Frank G. Slaughter, called The Deadly Lady of Madagascar.
I read some Frank G. Slaughter's books, but not that one.
Well, I had 2 or 3 different personalities. He'd write biblical historical novels,
Yeah,
and he'd write modern day medical novels.
Yeah, I read
and then he'd write these thrillers with I did another Buccaneer Surgeon. Have slaughter and adventure and naked women. And all this.
Did he have?
I don't think Disney will allow you to put the naked women in.
Were they historically accurate? Did he do?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it is research. Like I said, he had all these like 3 different personalities, and he always had a lot of.
Amazing writer. I mean, I can remember reading his books. I haven't read one of them in probably 30 years, but I used to read them all the time.
Yeah, it said Buccaneer Surgeon and The Deadly Lady of Madagascar. Those are both. Well, one of them's a pirate, one of them's got privateer, because it said the Buccaneer Surgeon is the Caribbean in the 16th century, right? Before the narrator is a secret agent for Walsingham and gets involved with the Spanish and the Spanish going out.
Spanish considered Drake a pirate.
The Spanish going out into the Caribbean and I
considered Morgan a pirate too. Or was it Francis Drake that actually swiped the stuff off?
He tried to, but I don't think he succeeded.
No, I think it was Drake that tried it twice and managed to do it on the second trip, and then it was Henry Morgan that held up the fortress and then managed to fool them all by making them think he'd sailed away and then ambushing them and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. Henry Morgan did some interesting stuff along that. So, no, it was Drake that got the stuff out of the mine that traveled across the Isthmus of Panama. Oh, I've been having a lot of fun researching pirates. Is there anybody in here that actually, has like a pirate, has a pirate persona like in the SCA or anything like that? No?
Not serious.
That'd be kind of fun.
Uncle Jimmy found somebody in the family tree, I think, who was hanged for piracy. But
it sounds like
that wouldn't necessarily take you very much. You could have been press caged onto a ship and not been able to prove it.
Exactly.
There's a new biography of Dampier, the naturalist, who very interesting way to write. Instead of getting research grants, he joined the pirates.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, for these big diaries, they always this is the feature I saw, and this is these people were on. By the way, we took a Spanish ship and got 15,000 doubloons off it, that sort of thing.
Okay. Anybody else have a question over here or a comment? Yes, sir.
Question about what about the legitimacy of the pirate code as they treated it in the movies? I mean, how historically accurate it was on that deal about the parlay and there are other rules of conduct and such.
Parlay didn't. I never saw anything that really
made such a big deal about that. It seemed too civil for pirates.
But there definitely that just was thought up by Rothio and Elliot because they needed some reason that they didn't slit Elizabeth's throat or rape her immediately and instead take her to Barbosa. So that was made up. But some of the code was obviously taken from various codes, including the possible Code of the Brethren from Henry Morgan, because it included things like pirates, like we're supposed to attack other pirates. And pirates were supposed to, if a man was disabled in a certain way, if you lost an eye, you got an X amount of money. If you lost a leg, you got X amount of money. If you lost an arm, you got X amount of money, things like that. And those were in the code. I actually have a book at home where they give the entire thing of the Brethren Code guidelines as opposed to the ones that were, real. And they obviously cribbed a tremendous amount from it. The one thing that they didn't do was show they made like a couple of half-hearted attempts to show the democratic nature of the pirate crews. And where they would say, well, what do you think, the hearties? And they'd all go, yay, captain. But mostly the captains, Barbosa or Jack, were shown to be in command at all times. This really wasn't true. If they were not going into battle and not doing anything tactical, then the crews really were very, very democratic. They were a real early form of democracy. It was pretty cool. And the one kind of truth to the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy that actually resonates with what was going on is that everywhere there was incredibly repressive societies that, you know, people were born into certain rules and they couldn't get out of them, and they, you know, they couldn't work their way up. They were like, you know, if you were a peasant, you were a peasant forever, and you couldn't, you know, get anywhere and all this sort of stuff. Pirates really were free. They really had a democratic sort of lifestyle. I mean, it was, you know, it was a short, nasty and brutal, you know, although they had a lot of rum and etc. That was true. They did drink rum like fishes, and they drank wine, and they drank anything else they could get their hands on. And there were cases where pirates were actually taken and they were too inebriated to fight. That was the case of Calico Jack Rackham. He was captured because he and his crew had been, you know, roistering the night before. The only two people sober enough to fight on the whole ship were Mary Read and Ann Body. And they stood up there with their guns and their pistols and their knives and their swords, and they yelled at the arresting, you know, Navy, you know, bring it on, we'll fight you all, you know, and they were ready to take them on. And as a matter of fact, it's a documented thing that when Jack Rackham, who was probably the father, both of them turned out to be pregnant, who was probably the father of at least one of their child, came down, you know, before he was, it's like his last request, he asked to see, I think it was Ann Bonny, who was his main squeeze, and she said she turned away from him because he had, you know, run and hid, because he and his men were drunk, and she said something about, you know, if I'm a better man than you are, you know, Jack, go and be hanged, and she just would have nothing to do with him. And as a matter of fact, we don't know if they ever did hang. They both turned out to be pregnant at the time of their capture, or they became pregnant immediately thereafter, because by the time they came to trial, they were certifiably pregnant because they had them examined when they said they were. And they both kind of vanished off the history books at that point. I believe Mary Read may well have died in prison. Ann Bonny kind of disappeared. Nobody knew what happened to her. I think that's the way it was. I may be mixing up the two ladies. I know one of them died, and they pretty well have her death on the books. And we don't know if she had a child before she died, or whether she died while she was, you know, they were trying to figure out what to do with her. But the other one vanished. She didn't hang, and she may well have gotten. She actually came from a family that was a wealthy family and well-to-do, and she may well have gotten free and gone back to her family or something.
So
pretty interesting.
I said I believe most sources say it was Mary who died and Anne who
yeah, Mary
vanished.
Who died, and Anne who may have gotten away with it all.
Right.
And so anyway, yeah, pretty interesting. So there actually were female pirates. But,
yeah, the best book I've seen on pirate was Frank Yerby's The Golden Hawk. As the one who's the miner. She swims ashore naked and get into a crowd of pirates while they're arguing over who gets to rape her first. Two guys get into an argument, they kill each other. She picks away their gun and said, "Okay, you give me the clothes. Since the rest of you are all sheep, you'll follow me. Let's go." And I think it goes on from there.
somebody recently
That's the sort of woman who would be a successful pirate.
well, of course, even before Mary Read and Anne Bonny, there was Grace O'Malley.
Yes.
You've probably heard of her. She took over from her husband, who was like a lord in Ireland, and she was left with her castle and an impoverished, you know, a family and a you know, like she was the lord of that particular area, and so she needed, you know, money, so she took to piracy, and she nearly got executed by Elizabeth, but she managed to get away and not escape, but she was like pardoned. I'm not exactly sure, and I don't think they even really know exactly why Elizabeth pardoned her. Maybe Elizabeth took one look at her and thought, well, you know, in a world where I'm one of the few women that has a lot of gumption and any power, this lady is a little bit like me, and felt some sort of kinship. I don't know.